Having said that, listen, I was just talking to Stefan off the air, and his advice is already since the last time we talked, but he mentioned that dual power generator. As a matter of fact, I was actually looking it up. There's one where you can get a triple, however you want to put it, a trio fuel because they've got one that's propane, natural gas, and gas. Which I found interesting, but it's very, very expensive. But I went out and bought this dual propane generator. It works fantastic. I plugged in the four EcoFlows yesterday, folks, just to see if it would handle all four, and it works and it charges brilliantly. So you'll be able to charge a more higher end of an EcoFlow in about 2 hours, maybe even a little less. So that is going to be huge. Like thinking a grid down scenario where you're able to get four EcoFlows charged, and each of those EcoFlows is going to give you, 6+ hours worth of power on most things in your home. To be able to do that in just a few hours, I mean that's a huge help. So, Stephen, thank you for that. And there's going to be a lot more people, Track and followers, that are going to follow suit. So that was a huge bit of advice last month. But where did you want to start this month?
Well, I wanted to start with Remembrance Day because for years I was saying, I've always thought this, that World War One and World War Two was completely unnecessary for America to get involved. America and Canada and Australia and New Zealand and Britain and all. Absolutely, there was no reason for us to get involved in those wars because Germany, neither in World War One nor in World War Two, ever had any intention of invading America. And even if they had intentions of invading America, it would be impossible to invade America. You and I, we've both traveled across the country. I think you've traveled across the country, right, Eric?
I'm not much of a traveler. I mean, especially the last 15 years with my syndrome, I can't go long distances in my car. I have a tough time traveling even like a
Oh,
half
yeah, me
hour these
too.
days.
I hate driving,
Yeah,
Eric. I hate,
yeah.
the other day I picked up a little side gig. Friends of mine, they have a business. They drive trucks from one location to another, but they need a chase vehicle to come and pick them up and drive them back.
hmm
So I drove
I
the.
wasn't much of a flyer either. I don't know if you've flown. I've only flown twice, and the two times that I did was like on a little charter private plane for a company that I worked for up in the Chicago area. But we had to fly to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, I think it was called. That's where the corporate was, and it was this little itty bitty plane. It wasn't even like the ones you go to like on a normal thing. And I like my nose was bleeding by the time I was done. Had all kinds of headaches, and I was like, nope, nope, not for me.
Well,
So I'm not a flyer either.
I used to love to fly when I was younger, but now I don't. Now it scares the hell out of me.
Mm.
Last time I had to fly was to Fort McMurray for my art project, my art installation. They commissioned me, and I got so drunk waiting for the airplane that I forgot my flight.
What? They just take off without you.
Yeah, they took off without me, so I went to the front. God, here's the other thing: they don't have clocks in airports anymore. They don't have clocks in banks. They don't have. I don't have a watch and I don't have a smartphone, so I don't know. I never know what time it is. Anyways, yeah, no, the flight left. They said, "Oh, we called you on the intercom." But I got drunk because I was so scared of flying. But
Yeah. Mm.
yeah, no, because I don't like it anymore. But you know what it is? It's a control issue. If I were to fly the plane myself,
Yeah.
then I'd be
Right.
okay. But I don't trust everybody else. I have a trust issue with everybody because
Mm.
guess what? Humanity,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
especially
2023.
2023, they're all a bunch of morons. Why would I trust
Yeah.
these people with my
Yeah.
life? If I can
Yeah.
drive where I can fly myself, I don't mind. Anyways,
I used to love driving though. By the way, oh man, I used to love like my trips from Raleigh, North Carolina, to, back here to the Ohio Valley when I was driving from Chicago back to here, even from here to New Jersey. Like I used to love actually drive, but like ever since my syndrome, like I just can't do it. Like, I get crazy vertigo. Everything's like spinning upside down. I mean, it's a mess. So
what's
I would
syndrome?
love to. My Xanax protracted syndrome. I think I
Oh,
mentioned
that's
it to
right.
you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot. I
Yeah,
remember
I get
now.
some crazy dizzy spells, and it's just not. I don't even really like driving a half hour. To be honest with you.
Yeah,
So I
no,
try to
I.
keep it more local.
So the other day I drove 3 hours as a chase car, and they want to give me more business. I said, yeah, but I don't. I'm not, I said, I said, like I am not driving to North Bay, which is like 6 hours from here. I know some of the trips are there. I can't drive for 6 hours. I can do 4 hours, and that's fine. Anyways, never mind that stuff. So the logistics of anybody invading America, it's impossible. So the Germans and the Japanese, and forget about it. They never had a chance in hell of ever invading and conquering America. We've never been in danger, like build up the biggest army in the world. But for what threat? Nobody could have threatened us because the logistics of bringing troops either across the Pacific or across the Atlantic is huge. You can't do it. And I've driven across the United States 5 times. It's a big, big country. There are hundreds of thousands of towns and cities, and most of the rest of it is empty. So there's no chance until, and now I stand corrected, because I'm always, my first book is on Chinese strategies, and I know you read the book The Art of War, and I'll be the first to say the book The Art of War by Sun Tzu or Sun Tzu, overrated. Yeah, overrated. But you compare it to other books on military strategy like Clausewitz, and Clausewitz is just like too long-winded. It's just
Oh, is that? Never heard of that one.
Clausewitz, yeah, a famous Prussian general, and he's a
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and he wrote the defense. I think his book is also called The Art of War. I forget.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
Clausewitz. Um,
Yeah, no, my family goes back. I mean, that's the reason why we have, with the website Tradcat and I,
yep.
the night portion of it. My family goes back to prominent Prussian troops from some days ago. We even got a nice Polish castle out in Poland still.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
Yaski signed. So yeah, that'd be. I'd love to read that one. A Prussian
Oh,
guy.
good luck. Yeah.
Good luck. Oh yeah, good luck. Hopefully it's translated.
Oh, it is translated. Yeah, you can get it. Uh, Clausewitz. I'll send you the link. I'll have to look it up.
All
I
right.
don't know the spelling, but because I read all these books like 30 years ago and digested them. But anyways, it's really long-winded. So compared to Clausewitz, then Sun Tzu's The Art of War is like a little bit more compact, more directly to the point. But it's not genius either. You want to know what's genius? My book, The 36 Strategies of Ancient China. You can read Clausewitz and you can read Sun Tzu and you can get like 4 or 5 good strategies out of it. My book, you get
Yeah.
36 strategies. For example,
Mm.
Sun Tzu never talks about beautiful women, neither does Clausewitz. But my book, 36 Strategies, has a whole chapter called The Strategy of Beautiful Women.
What's that for? Like distraction? You mean, or like what? I mean,
Oh, it's for causing the enemy to fall apart from within.
yeah. Oh, that'll do it for sure. Jeez.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, people underestimate the power of a beautiful woman, but you send a beautiful woman into a group of men, and the men all go nuts. They lose their
Yeah. Oh,
minds,
for sure.
right? They can't cooperate with each other. They're always showing off for the girl. And you're going to create rivalries between all the men, and so your
Yeah.
organization is going to become discombobulated from within because
Oh, for sure. No, that's a great strategy. Yeah.
oh
Love it.
yeah, and it's used many times. Would you like me to hear a story from the book about beautiful women?
As long as we keep it in a Christian format, yeah.
Oh, it's very Christian. Yeah, don't worry, it's not. So the Tang Emperor, so this is around 900 AD in China. He's chasing after the Xiongnu. Now, the Xiongnu was the predecessors to the modern day Mongols. And all these steppe people that lived up in Mongolia and the Eurasian steppes, they would always, raid south into China, take over a couple of cities, rob the place top to bottom, and then they would retreat. So it's like an ongoing problem. For 2,000 years, the governments, the empires of China had to deal with these guys always raiding their northern borders. And so, well, usually what they did was they built a bunch of forts out in the hinterland.
Okay.
But when the Xiongnu came down to raid, then well, the Imperial Army would be sent out to chase them down and punish them. But you want to know guerrilla tactics? That's what we're going to talk about. But the Xiongnu were experts on guerrilla tactics, and one of the tactics they used, tactics. Excuse me, I'm slurring my speech. One of the tactics they used was when the Imperial Army was marched out there, they would retreat into the wilderness. They would just pull back. There's millions of square miles of grasslands there, right? It goes all the way from Korea to the Ukraine, right? Uh, so millions of square miles of grasslands. So the Imperial Army would go out there, and these guys would just they would fade back into the grasslands. They'd keep retreating, keep retreating, keep retreating. Again, this is a basic principle of guerrilla warfare. The basic principle
Right.
of guerrilla
Yep.
warfare is avoid what is strong, attack what is
Yep.
weak. So what would happen is that these imperial army from China, well, their supply chains are getting stretched, right? Because they would also do a scorched earth tactic. So when the Mongols, or the Xiongnu in this case, retreated into the grasslands, they would burn everything down. So now the Tang army, they've got 500,000 men, horses, and camp followers, and they got to carry all their own food and water, right, to supply the horses and the cattle and the men
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
right. And this supply chain gets stretched, right? Like they're going from the capital city in China, which at that time was called Chang'an, and they would have to go out into the wilderness and chase these guys down. And it's the supply chains, Eric. That's why I said we were never in danger of being invaded, because the supply chains to maintain a standing army on American soil from either Germany or Japan or Europe or China, forget about it. It's just too far. So this is classical guerrilla strategy. The Xiongnu, they would disappear out into the wilderness, and then what would happen is eventually the army chasing them would run out of food and water, and then they'd have to turn
Mm.
around and go back. All right.
I see. Yeah, no, I got that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's one of the things I've learned. Another thing I've learned is attack only attack when you know you're going to win. Like if you have the slightest doubt, you don't attack, and then attack when least expected. From what I've read too, in terms of like your military units, and I've like I said, I've read a few books. I've seen anywhere between 6 and 15. Like you don't want to go any bigger than like a 15-man military unit. Like you don't want it too small, but you also don't want to go like too big when
Yep.
you're moving about in like these little units. So yeah, no, I've definitely read that. That's a great tactic. I mean, and like think about, because you and I are a big proponent of this too, like the health side. Like if you're going to be in a guerrilla war fight, like you can't be 400 pounds. You know what I mean? Like you better be in shape if you're going to be moving around and trying to like basically out cardio,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
enemy.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
you got to be in shape. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's your basic guerrilla strategy right there with the Xiongnu and the Imperial Chinese Army. So one time the Tang Emperor himself was leading the army, because this was at the beginning of the Tang Dynasty. The emperor had to show himself to be a real macho dude, right? So rides out in front of the army, and off they go to chase these guys. Well, they find themselves out in the middle of the grasslands. They got no food and water left, and suddenly they're surrounded by 200,000 cavalry.
Right. Right.
So they make a run for it. And where they went to was one of these small forts that the Chinese had built already hundreds of years earlier, right? So there's all these little, think Fort Apache, right? In the Wild West, right? So same thing with the settlers. They would build these stockades, these small forts, and they would. But then, if the Comanches and the Apaches and the Sioux and the Lakota and all that, if they attacked, everybody would run back to the fort. So that's what the Chinese did. So they run back to the fort. Now they're in this tiny fort, and they're surrounded by 200,000 Mongol horsemen. and they can't escape, and it's only a matter of time because typically what a siege does is starve you out. Very few armies actually attack a well-defended fortress or
Mm.
right. They don't.
Yeah, yeah. The waiting game.
It's the waiting game. What you do is you make sure you surround the fort, you surround the castle, and you just make sure nobody can get in and out, and you wait for them to all starve to death. 90% of the cases involving sieges on fortified positions like castles, and this goes back to Rome and Europe and everything. They just waited them out.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
So now there's the Tang Emperor, and he's trapped in this fort, and they're already low on food and munitions, or food and water, and they have no chance, right? So the emperor turns to his master strategist, his Tai Kong, and he says, "Well, we're screwed now. What can we do?" Right? And the master strategist says, "Well, do you have anybody in the army that knows how to paint?"
Yeah. Bob Ross. You got Bob Ross in the
Yeah, you
army.
got Bob Ross in there. You got a Da Vinci in there. And he says, "Well, yeah, Sergeant Chen, he's a very good painter." He says, "Okay, bring me him." And he says, "Can you give me two guys that can sneak in to the enemy encampment?" So, ghillie suits and real spycraft, crawl on your belly and get into the encampment. He says, "Oh, yeah, we got a couple of guys that are very good at infiltrating enemy camps." He says, "Okay, bring me them." So he talks to the painter and he talks to the two guys, and he has two scrolls that he rolls up and he gives to the guys, and he says, "Sneak into the Mongol camp and slip this under the pillow of the Khan." The Khan is the leader of the Mongols.
Yeah.
"Slip this under the pillow of the Khan's wife." All right. Because the wives traveled with the Khans in those days, right?
Mm.
Okay, so great. Off they go. The next morning, the emperor wakes up, takes a look out. The Mongols are gone. They're gone. They send out a scout. Are they waiting in ambush? Are they, 5 miles down the road? Nope, they're gone. So what happened? Excuse me.
They let the wife know that there was a sale at Macy's. So everyone fled.
Close. So what the strategist, I'll call him the Tai Gong, that's the name for the strategist, did was he told the artist, he says, "I want you to paint me a painting of the most beautiful woman you've ever seen." Okay, good, I can do that. And then he wrote a letter to the Khan's wife, and the letter said this: "My master, the emperor, knows he has lost, and he has no chance of escaping. He plans to barter, to negotiate with your husband for freedom. And in return, he promises your husband one of the most beautiful women in China to be his concubine." So we don't know what the wife said to her husband, right? But you can see this as, come on, this is women, right? So, suddenly her husband is going to get the most beautiful woman in China to go live with him. What do you think the wife's chances are for a long-term happy relationship?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the strategy of beautiful women. You mess with, you send a woman into the camp and they destroy everything. I've seen it myself. I've seen it in business. I've seen it in sports teams. You name it. You bring a beautiful woman in there, and I'm going, this is trouble.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I know.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, there's a lot more strategies in my book, The 36 Strategies of Ancient China, available on Amazon. And
Nice.
like I said, there's 36 strategies in there. So this is guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare, like I know the books you're reading, I've read them too. As a matter of fact, I've contributed to a couple of those books. There's a former Marine colonel called H.P. Poole, who writes books for the military on guerrilla strategies. And he wrote me years ago, this is going back almost 15 years, he said, can I use stuff from your book, The 36 Strategies, which, by the way, is in the library at West Point Academy and in
Nice,
the Annapolis Naval Academy. So you,
nice.
and of course New York NYU Library. It's part of their game theory recommended reading list. So yeah, my book is in all the military institutions, believe it or not. And this H.P. Poole fellow used a lot of the strategies from 36 Strategies to illustrate his book on guerrilla strategies for modern warfare. So yeah, it's but most of the books you'll read, I already know what you're reading. Like so you set up an ambush position here, you put your booby traps on that side of the road, you attack from here, you chase the military column into hiding behind there, but there you've got the claymores, you know,
Right, mines, yeah.
right? That's probably what you're reading right now, right?
Yeah, yeah, to some degree, yeah.
Yeah, to some
Yeah,
degree. You'll come across
mhm.
it, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
crossfire positions and lines of fire and the difference between shelter and cover, and
Hmm. Well, the other major point thus far too is it's been pretty synonymous through the three books that I've read so far is making sure you're a friend of the people's. You know what I mean? So you like networking, basically, what we would call like kind of in the business world. You know what I mean?
oh
Making
yeah,
sure they, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So like in a situation where like our countries are becoming more and more communist, you got to find those people who are not necessarily like formally a part of what you're doing, but you got to get them to side with you. You know what I mean? And so they're kind of showing you tactics of how you could start. I don't know if I want to say like protest. I forget the word that this one book uses, but you got to get the people on your side, or at least a good number of the people on your side. What's also very interesting too that I've read is like you said, it's not like this sort of like just go out and just be violent and kill everyone kind of thing. Like when you think like when I initially thought of guerrilla warfare before I was studying it, like this is much more calculated. Like it's really about avoiding war, like at all costs. And if you have to fight, like I said, like you got to be like 100% like okay, we're going to be able to take them out. There should be like no doubt. If there's any doubt, you don't fight, basically.
that's
You
right,
know what I mean? So
that's
it's like
right.
really just it's like deception. It almost sounds like the Mossad. You know what I mean? But
Well,
you
where do
know
you
what I
think
mean?
the
You just
Mossad got it from? They got it from Sun Tzu
yeah,
too. That's what Sun
yeah.
Tzu writes, and also, I mean, I read all the Chinese, the Six Secret Teachings of the Tai Gong, and all those kind of books.
Right, right,
But they all say the same thing: do not fight a battle you can't win.
right, right.
It's really simple. That's why
Mm-hmm.
my advice to people when they're being pulled over by the police: don't argue with them. you know,
Right.
don't try to run away. Don't try to fight. How can you win that, you moron? You play along. You play nice,
Unless you're
nice.
a woman, right? Unless
Huh?
you use the woman distraction. Unless you use the woman distraction card. You flip your hair a little bit.
Not
You know,
unless you're a
you
beautiful
get
woman. Yeah, exactly.
right. There you
Oh yeah.
go.
Well, they can get out speeding tickets all the time, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. I know.
so
Now we're kind of all over the place here, and yeah, I love it. I love it when we freestyle. Actually, instead of like having stuff scripted down. I did want to squeeze in hopefully a few thoughts here. Like preparing, we might go into a dark winter scenario. I've been telling people based upon what I'm seeing geopolitically, Iran is now saying, hey, look for fault. We're going to basically start attacking your country from within type of thing. So it seems like we're headed down that dark winter path, and as a part of that dark winter path, you're talking more bioweapons, probably like smallpox being blamed on Russia, but a lot of like grid down stuff soon to happen. There
that's
was some more bank. Go ahead.
yep. That's where I
Yeah.
was going to go. You know.
Okay. Okay.
So what I was saying for years is we were never in danger. Okay, we were never in danger. No reason to go into World War I. No reason to go into World War II. But all of that has now changed. I've been telling people in radio interviews that if I had 100 trained men, I could take down the U.S. in like 2 days. Really simple. Divide them up into four-man teams. You disperse them throughout the country All they need is a shotgun, and at a designated time, you drive to pre-arranged targets, which would be transformer stations, and shoot the transformer with your shotgun. It'll take the whole grid down, right? You take down one transformer, it'll take down 4 or 5 other transformers. Now you got 50 teams spread in each of the states going, one transformer to another. I mean, you don't even have to get out of your car, right? You just have to drive down the road, stick the shotgun out the window, shoot the transformer station, move on to the next one. So you could take down the entire grid in the United States in 2 days with 100 men. Now, what I said before about the impossibility of the logistics of landing an army in the United States, well, I stand corrected. I never could have guessed this, even though I know strategy and tactics and all this. I've never seen this before. And that is where the targeted country, in this case America, pays to import their enemy into their own country.
The enemy, well, because it's the enemy within, right? The enemy is posing as, you know, posing as the non-enemy, and they're basically letting people in.
Exactly. And I mean, there's got to be at least a million
Oh,
fighting. At
at
least,
least.
like we know, just this year they let in a million.
Yep.
That's not even counting the last 5 years where they were running over the border, 20,000 a day.
Did you see the? Not to cut you off, but did you see? I saw a short little clip of Joe Rogan's podcast talking with Tim Kennedy, who's in the military. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tim, but he's done like the Alex Jones show, and he's like a Green Beret, and he's done my show like 3 or 4 times. He was the one guy that was getting was verbally chastised or threatened by ISIS back in the day, and he was like on camera saying, "Yeah, okay, come get me. You're not even,
Yeah.
He's basically like a modern day kind of Rambo." But he was on the podcast yesterday talking about the same subject, and he said Americans have no idea. He said 2024 is going to be insane. He's like, Americans are not prepared. He said this is going
Nope.
to get ugly.
Yep.
They're not ready. Yep.
Like if I could take over America, or not take over, but destroy America with 100 men, there's already a million over here. And don't think the weapons and equipment aren't already here. They were shipped over in containers probably 10 years ago in anticipation of this. But now, I mean, when they get the signal, when they get organized, and they go and pick up the weapons at the depots that they've already set up all over the country, they're going to take down America. So this is the only time in history that America has ever been in danger, and it's in more danger now than it's ever been, and that's because we've got a million or more people that we don't know who they are. They could be Chinese People's Army. They could be terrorist organizations. It doesn't matter. There's more than a million a year. I only need 100, and
Yeah.
they're going to take things down. So the last thing, because we're almost out of time, the last thing I want to say is guerrilla tactics that we need to form as communities is a quick response team.
Yep.
Okay, so you need 4 guys, 2 pickups or 2 SUVs, and those 4 guys got to be armed. And the pickups and SUVs need to have radio, ham radio stations in them, and you need to be armed, and you need to have your communications set up. We talked about this before, the importance that your community is all connected with communications, because when these sleeper cells come out of hiding and start tearing down the country, you're going to have to protect your own property and protect your own
Yep.
people. And the quick response team, I got that idea by listening to interviews from South African farmers. Because you want to talk about white genocide, they're trying to kill the whites in South Africa. And they've been trying to kill them for 40 years now. And so the farmers are isolated. The police and military will do nothing to help white people if they're attacked. Same thing is happening here. Don't expect the police to come. Oh, there's a white person being attacked. Sorry, can't help you. So you need to protect yourself and you need to protect your neighbors. And what the South Africans did was created quick response teams that could be contacted by radio so that if there was a farmer and he was being attacked by 50 looters, they were raiding his farm, they were coming over the fence, he'd get on the radio and you would have, well, minimum four, hopefully, 30, 40 fellow South African farmers in vehicles with weapons come out to your place as quickly as possible. We need to think about doing the same thing here as well, guys.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Good stuff, Stefan. Thanks so much for joining us. Quick shout out to the website again. Where can people find your main website?
ChinaStrategies.com. And if you want to get books on guerrilla warfare and fighting and military tactics, it's all a part of my collection, the Survival Library. I've got like 40 books on military, guns, guerrilla, how to camouflage, how to set up bases, and all the stuff you've been reading too. Um,
Yeah.
so it's all in my survival library, $49.95. You get 320 books, plus you get my books, which includes the 36 strategies of ancient China. So
Nice.
you read those, you'll be up to
Yeah,
par
yeah.
on all the guerrilla strategies.
Good stuff. All right, there you have it, folks. The latest from Stefan Verstappen. We got to get Sarah McLaughlin back on the show, hopefully in the next 15 minutes or so. Until next time, my good friends, stay safe.